Welcome to SXE Cheating Story. This channel offers insights and discussions on psychological novels, focusing on the themes, emotional depth, and character development found in these works. The content provided here is for general informational and entertainment purposes only. Our interpretations and analyses reflect personal viewpoints and are not a substitute for professional psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please be aware that while we explore complex emotions and mental states as depicted in fiction, this should not be construed as professional guidance. If you or someone you know is facing mental health challenges, we strongly encourage you to consult a licensed mental health professional for appropriate support. Additionally, some novels discussed on this channel may cover intense or sensitive topics. Viewer discretion is advised. Thank you for watching, and please enjoy our literary explorations responsibly. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, put a like under the video, and write your opinion about this story. We really value your opinion on what emotions, thoughts, and conclusions come to you after watching our stories. Enjoy watching. The rain started an hour ago. First just a hesitant drizzle, tapping lightly against the window, then building into a steady, relentless downpour. It sounds like 1,000 fingertips drumming on glass, insistent and accusatory. I can't help but think of it as the world's way of hinting, warning, whispering. Look closer. Something's wrong. I'm staring at my wife's phone, still unlocked, her screen casting a soft, intrusive glow in the dim light of the kitchen. In the background, the house feels suddenly alive, every shadow and creak conspiring to remind me of how long we've lived here, and how little I apparently know about what has gone on under its roof. My mind flickers through half-formed thoughts, old memories like photos half-remembered and fading in detail. No, there's nothing here. It's just a bad dream, I tell myself, though I know, deep down, it's not. Her messages with Mark, her so-called colleague, are all the proof I need. I feel as though I'm outside myself, looking in on a stranger sitting at my kitchen table, peering into someone else's life. The texts, they're not explicit, not crude. They're worse than that. They're familiar, casual, but filled with a warmth and ease that I now realize has been missing between us. "Just can't wait until Paris," she'd typed to him. Simple words. It's not the content that hurts. It's the undertones, the quiet admission of intimacy, the plans they've made in the city that was supposed to be ours one day. Our dream for someday, pushed aside for a fling she thinks I don't see. My thoughts are an unstable whirlpool, spinning between anger, disbelief, and a strange sort of numbness. How could I have missed this? I was a good husband, I think, or at least I thought I was. We did everything by the book: marriage, the house, the future plans. And now, here I am, holding a reality that feels as thin and fragile as the rain-soaked leaves plastered against the window. I look around our kitchen and suddenly, everything seems wrong. The polished counters, the carefully chosen decor, even the smell of the freshly ground coffee lingering in the air, all of it feels fake. Our marriage, it turns out, was just another piece of set design, a backdrop for someone else's real life. I realize with a bitter twist of clarity that if I keep living this way, pretending not to see, not to know, I'll become a shell, something hollow that used to be a person. I can feel the first prickling edge of that hollow feeling taking root in my chest, seeping into me like the rain into the soil outside. Yet, as much as I hate her betrayal, there's something inside me, an old voice that says, "Stay." Stay for what? For the comfortable routines we've etched into our lives? For the image of us I thought we were? My thoughts circle back to the absurd idea of her going to Paris with him, and I almost laugh out loud. She had the gall to keep using our anniversary as her phone's passcode. Some code. Maybe I'd always thought we were more than that, but now I'm not so sure. I hear her coming down the stairs, her footsteps light but confident, as though nothing in the world could shatter her security. As she rounds the corner, our eyes meet. She gives me a half smile, a little too polite, too rehearsed. "Hey, I thought you'd gone to bed already," she says, her voice breezy. I don't answer immediately. The silence stretches a little too long, the air thickening between us. I can feel her watching me, but I keep my gaze fixed on her phone. Finally, I say, "Just looking up hotels in Paris. Didn't you mention where you're staying?" She pauses just for a beat, then forces a casual tone. "Oh, right. I'll send it to you tomorrow. I think I left it in my email somewhere," she replies, her voice light, but with a slight tremor underneath. I want to say, "Of course you'd leave it in your email, wouldn't you?" Instead, I offer a weak smile and nod, acting the role of the trusting husband. But my mind is already working, already planning. The rain's picked up again, a torrential downpour now, drowning out everything else. Her footsteps retreat up the stairs, and I sit in the dark kitchen, alone with the phone, the evidence, and the steady throb of my pulse echoing in my ears. A stray thought crosses my mind. This rain could wash it all away, cleanse it. But I know it won't. It'll only leave a mess behind, one I'll be cleaning up for months, maybe years. The rain somehow is a reflection of the storm brewing inside me. I feel it churning, gaining strength, and there's a part of me that's curious, even a little afraid of where it might take me. There's an ache in my chest, a hollow, dull throb that I try to ignore as I sit at my desk the next morning. I stare at the stacks of papers, the familiar routine laid out in orderly chaos in front of me. I can feel the weight of yesterday's discovery pressing down on me, trying to nudge me toward action, but I refuse to give in. I don't need to do anything, I tell myself. It'll pass. It has to pass. The office is quiet today, too quiet. I used to enjoy these moments of solitude, the stillness that let me think and prepare. But now, with this restlessness gnawing at me, every tick of the clock on the wall feels magnified, echoing through the silence. It reminds me of a heartbeat, a constant, inescapable reminder of time passing, of choices avoided, of what lies waiting outside this sterile bubble of routine. My fingers drum absently on the desk. I should be preparing for the presentation next week, working on anything to push these thoughts out of my mind, but my thoughts keep drifting, unbidden, back to Sarah's messages with him. Mark. The name tastes bitter even as I think it. He's everywhere and nowhere at once, like a shadow that lingers on the edge of my vision. The decision is simple, isn't it? Just pretend. Pretend I never saw it. Pretend she never sent it. She'll come back, and life will continue just as it was. I keep telling myself that over and over, as if saying it enough will make it true. The trouble is, I don't really believe it, not completely. And there's a part of me that despises the weakness in clinging to this fractured facade of a life. But what's the alternative? Breaking everything apart because of some texts on a phone? I shake my head trying to focus on the papers in front of me. Words blur and rearrange themselves in nonsensical shapes. Outside, the sun hangs low in a washed-out sky, casting a faint orange glow that filters through the blinds and drapes everything in a dusty, faded light. It's like seeing my life from a distance, hazy, as if it belongs to someone else entirely. That thought is almost comforting. If it's someone else's life, then I don't have to deal with it. A knock on my office door startles me. "Come in," I call, forcing my voice to sound calm, collected. My assistant, Rachel, steps in, holding a stack of folders. She glances at me, her expression concerned but hesitant, as if sensing something just beneath the surface. "Are you all right?" she asks, a hint of reluctance in her tone, as though she's unsure if she should be asking. I force a smile, a practiced expression I know too well. "Of course, just a lot on my plate right now." She nods, handing me the files without another word, though her gaze lingers, curious. "You wouldn't understand," I want to say. But instead, I thank her and watch her leave, her footsteps soft and retreating down the hall. The office feels different after she's gone. Quieter somehow, with a hollow echo that wasn't there before. I stare at the files on my desk, unopened, the carefully arranged pages taunting me with the ease of their certainty. In this world, everything is black and white. Numbers add up, rules are followed, boxes are ticked off. I can almost convince myself that if I just stick to this routine long enough, the thoughts of Sarah will fade into the background like old noise. But she's there, her presence as heavy as the smell of stale coffee clinging to the air. I'm aware of every inch of space she's invaded, every second she's stolen from me. The smell is oppressive, filling my nose with a bitter tang that clings to the back of my throat. It'll pass, I repeat. It has to pass. That night, I go home late. The house is dark and silent, shadows creeping along the walls in elongated patterns like specters haunting the empty rooms. I walk into the kitchen, turning on the dim overhead light, and immediately feel the cold, stale air of the house settle over me like a shroud. It's as if it's waiting, holding its breath, expecting me to do something, make some kind of decision. But I'm not ready. The house feels like a stranger's now, and yet, it's the only place that feels remotely familiar. I tell myself that everything can go back to how it was, that I don't have to change anything. I can endure this, can I? People endure worse things every day. I can endure her betrayal. I have to. I can still feel the weight of her phone in my hand from last night. A cold, sleek thing that looked innocent but was filled with deceit. It sits in the drawer now, hidden away, but its presence feels as real as if I were still holding it. Every so often I catch myself glancing toward that drawer, expecting it to fly open, to confront me with more truths I'd rather leave buried. Later, as I sit in the darkened living room, the phone buzzes with a message. I don't have to check. I know it's her, probably asking if I'm okay, oblivious to the storm she's left in her wake. I ignore it, feeling a rush of satisfaction in denying her even this small piece of comfort. Let her wonder, I think bitterly. Let her feel the silence as I feel it, the heavy, oppressive void that fills this house now. Tomorrow, I tell myself, things will be different. Tomorrow, I'll have the courage to confront her. But as I sit here, bathed in the faint glow of the streetlight filtering through the window, I know I'm lying. The truth is, I'm not ready to change anything. Not yet. The rain has returned, an unending cascade tapping against the window like some relentless unseen hand, coaxing me, daring me to step beyond this half-life of denial and into the unknown. I stand by the window, arms crossed, watching droplets race each other down the glass, blurring the outside world into shades of gray. I can't remember how long I've been standing here, but it feels like the rain is seeping into me, filling the cracks that have splintered my world. I thought I could just bury it. This betrayal, this ugly knowledge of what Sarah has done. For days, I've tried to push it aside, drown it out with work, routine, anything to avoid the truth. But the truth sits heavy inside me, gnawing at my core, leaving no room for anything else. It's becoming clear, terrifyingly clear, that this isn't going away. I can't escape it. It's part of me now, like a wound that refuses to heal. It's not only about her, it's about me, about the things I thought I knew, about everything I never questioned. I find myself standing in front of her phone again, fingers hovering over the screen. There's a strange satisfaction in knowing I could just open it, see all of her messages with him again, relive every detail. My own private hell, right there in my hands, waiting. Do it, a part of me whispers. Read every word, let it sear itself into you. But no, that's not enough. Reading their messages won't change anything. If I'm going to survive this, if I'm going to make sense of it, I need to face her. I need to see her and ask the questions that have been simmering inside me, questions I didn't even know I had until now. The thought is chilling, yet strangely exhilarating. I want answers, and I want her to feel the weight of what she's done. But more than that, I want to understand why. Why him? Why this secrecy? I thought we had something real. God, how naive can you be? The door clicks open behind me. I don't turn right away, holding on to this last moment of quiet before it shatters. Her footsteps approach, light but hesitant, a whisper against the floorboards. I feel her standing there, watching me, and there's a tension in the air like we're both waiting for something to break. "Jake," she says, her voice soft, cautious, as though testing the waters. "You've been distant. Is everything okay?" Her words hit me like a fist and I almost laugh. Is everything okay? How do I even answer that? I turn to face her, and the calm, innocent expression on her face nearly makes me recoil. She stands there, dressed in her comfortable evening clothes, her hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. She looks so normal, so utterly unperturbed. I wonder, with a fresh surge of bitterness, how she can play this part so convincingly. "Funny," I say, keeping my voice steady. "I was about to ask you the same thing." A flicker of something crosses her face. Surprise, maybe? No, fear. It's quick, barely perceptible, but it's there. She recovers almost instantly, her expression smoothing out, but I've seen it. She knows. And just like that, the power shifts, tilting in my favor. "What do you mean?" she says, attempting casualness, but her tone betrays her. There's an edge to it now, a faint tremor that wasn't there before. I shake my head, marveling at her audacity. "Paris," I say, the single word heavy, loaded with everything I can't bring myself to say. I see her face pale slightly, her eyes widening just a fraction. That one word is all it takes to puncture the illusion, to remind her that I know. Her mouth opens, then closes, as if she's searching for the right thing to say, the right excuse. The silence stretches between us, thick, almost unbearable. For the first time, I feel like I can breathe. "I thought," she starts, then falters. "I thought you understood. I thought you were fine with it." Her words are soft, hesitant, laced with guilt, and yet something more. She sounds almost defensive, as though my pain is an inconvenience she hadn't anticipated. I feel a surge of something dark and primal rising in me, something I barely recognize as my own voice. "Fine with it?" The words come out low, barely more than a whisper, but they're sharp, cutting. "Is that really what you think?" She looks away, her gaze fixed somewhere past my shoulder. There's something in her expression that I can't place, a mix of shame and something colder, like resignation. I don't know what to say, Jake. We just drifted apart. It happens. People change. Her words hang in the air, a dismissal of everything we built together, as though 5 years could simply fade into nothing. I don't trust myself to speak, so I just stand there, letting the silence fill the space between us. The room feels smaller, the walls pressing in, suffocating. I want to scream, to shatter the calmness in her voice, to force her to feel even a fraction of the pain I'm feeling. But I know that would be pointless. She's already moved on, hasn't she? She moved on before I even knew there was something to leave behind. Later, as she walks away, her footsteps receding down the hall, I sit back down at the table, staring into the empty space she left behind. The room feels colder, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the only sound in the silence. I grip the edge of the table, my knuckles white, and close my eyes. So, this is it. I could let it end here, couldn't I? Just walk away, leave her to her life with Mark, pretend it never happened. But something inside me rebels against that thought. Number, I won't just be a passive observer in my own life. I refuse to let this happen to me. If she wants to tear down everything we built together, I'll make sure she feels every single stone as it crumbles. The rain outside intensifies, the sound becoming almost deafening, like a torrent washing away everything in its path. It feels like an omen, a warning. I stare out the window, watching the darkened street glisten under the rain, and I make a silent promise to myself. I'm done pretending. If she thinks she can dismantle our life with quiet words and careless lies, she's mistaken. I'll hold her accountable one way or another. The rain pounds harder against the window, echoing the resolve settling in my chest. I won't let this go. I'll take back control of my life, of my story, even if it means starting over from the ashes. The weight of my decision is suffocating. Every morning, I wake with a tension in my chest that feels like iron bands squeezing tighter with each breath. My days, once filled with predictable routines, are now battlegrounds. I move through them, each task feeling like a gauntlet, each interaction a test of my resolve. I had thought that committing to this path, to holding Sarah accountable, to reclaiming my life, would grant me some clarity. Instead, it's only dredged up a new host of conflicts, making me question every step. I sit at my desk and the usual scent of coffee grounds fills the air, a small, bitter comfort I once found grounding. But now, even that familiar smell feels tinged with something foul, a reminder that nothing in my life is untouched by betrayal. The sounds around me are muted, as if the world is pulled back to let me suffer in silence. There's an ache, a deep, hollow pain that follows me from room to room, and I can't seem to shake it. I didn't ask for this, none of it. And yet, here I am, crawling forward, dragging myself through it, hoping to find some semblance of redemption on the other side. Every conversation with her is now a carefully choreographed exchange. Last night, she brought up dinner plans with friends, asking me as casually as if nothing were wrong. She wanted to know if we should carpool, if she should cook, as if she hadn't shattered everything we'd built. The nonchalance in her tone made my skin crawl. "Do you even want to go?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could, forcing myself not to look at her. The subtext was thick between us, every word a barely contained accusation. She paused, and for a split second, I thought I saw something. Regret? Shame? But just as quickly, she looked away, a faint smirk pulling at her lips. Why wouldn't I want to go? She shrugged, her gaze drifting to her phone as if she was already bored with the conversation. Life goes on, doesn't it? Life goes on. The words echoed in my mind, laced with indifference, as if the person she was speaking to wasn't even worth the effort of pretending. I could feel the anger bubble beneath my skin, cold and sharp, but I held it down, swallowing back the urge to lash out. I won't let her see me crack. Not yet. My days are now filled with small, quiet acts of preparation. Evidence collected, accounts checked, each task a step closer to reclaiming what's mine. I spend hours combing through old records, anything to occupy my mind and keep me from falling into the dark, endless pit of despair. But there's always a quiet, nagging voice in the back of my head, whispering questions I can't ignore. Am I any better than her? What am I trying to prove? There's no answer, just the relentless ticking of the clock, each second reminding me of time slipping through my fingers. I can almost feel the sand shifting beneath me, as if I'm on the edge of some vast, bottomless ocean, and one wrong step will drag me under. But what else can I do? If I don't pursue this, if I don't find some way to reclaim my dignity, I'll be swallowed whole. Today, the rain is a faint drizzle, not the raging torrent it was before, but a thin, persistent mist that clings to everything. It seeps into my clothes, my skin, until I'm chilled through. The gray sky feels oppressive, heavy, as if it's mirroring the burden I carry. I step into my lawyer's office, the sterile smell of paper and stale coffee hitting me the moment I walk in. The atmosphere is thick, like entering the mouth of some enormous beast, the kind that swallows people whole and never spits them back out. "Jake," David says, gesturing me toward a seat across from him. His expression is unreadable, his eyes narrowed just slightly. He knows why I'm here, and yet the formality feels almost like an insult, a reminder of the businesslike nature of my plan. "You're certain you want to go through with this?" I nod, though there's a tremor in my hand as I grip the arm of the chair. "I am. I just need to make sure everything's airtight." He studies me, his gaze steady, searching, as though trying to see past my resolve and into whatever remains of my hesitation. "This kind of thing," he begins, his voice careful, as if he's navigating around a minefield. "It changes people, Jake, sometimes more than they expect." I hold his gaze, the weight of his words settling over me like a cold, damp blanket. "Maybe that's what I want," I say, surprising even myself. The words feel strange, foreign, and yet somehow true. I don't just want justice or revenge. I want transformation. I want to burn away every trace of the man I was and emerge as something stronger, something untouchable. David nods, as if he understands, but I can see the faint glimmer of pity in his eyes, a flicker that makes my skin crawl. He doesn't get it. No one does. This isn't just about her betrayal. It's about reclaiming my life, about tearing down everything she's tainted and building something new. The drive home feels longer than usual. The streets are slick, the faint glow of streetlights casting an eerie sheen on the wet pavement. I keep the radio off, letting the silence wrap around me. I wonder, briefly, if she'll be waiting for me, if she'll ask where I've been, but the thought feels hollow. She's probably with him. Or if not with him, then thinking of him, her mind somewhere I can't reach. Good, I think. Let her wander. Soon enough it won't matter. I pull into the driveway, stepping out into the rain, the chill biting through my clothes. I stand there for a moment, letting the water soak through, grounding me, washing away the day's strain. And in that moment, I realize something strange. This entire ordeal, these sleepless nights and strained conversations, they're slowly carving something out of me. It's painful, yes, but there's a clarity forming in the chaos, a new shape I can't quite recognize but feel taking form. Inside, the house is dark. I hear her faintly in the kitchen, her voice soft, murmuring into the phone. Her laughter filters down the hall, light, casual, as though I don't exist. I stand there, silent, listening to the ease in her voice, the careless melody of someone who has moved on without even looking back. She doesn't know I'm there, and for a moment, I consider turning back, leaving her to her secrets. But something stops me. Maybe it's the anger, or maybe it's just exhaustion, the weariness of pretending for so long. I step into the doorway, watching her, the kitchen light casting harsh shadows across her face. She glances up, startled, her laughter dying on her lips. "You're home," she says, her voice faintly guarded. I don't reply. I just stand there watching her, letting the silence stretch, thick and heavy between us. There are 1,000 things I want to say, accusations I want to fling at her, but instead, I find myself asking a single question, soft, almost too quiet to hear. "Why?" She blinks, her eyes flickering with something I can't name. "Why what?" "Why him?" The words feel strange in my mouth, like they don't quite belong, yet they carry every ounce of bitterness and longing I've buried. For a long moment, she just stares at me, her expression unreadable. Then, finally, she lets out a soft, tired sigh. "Maybe you're not as perfect as you think, Jake." The answer stings, sharp as glass, but I don't flinch. I nod, as if I understand, but inside, I feel something harden, a final, unbreakable resolve. I'm done with her games, her lies. I won't waste another moment trying to understand. From here on out, I'll act, and I'll let her watch as I take back every piece of myself she thought she could steal. The rain outside grows heavier, and as I walk away, leaving her in the kitchen's harsh light, I feel the first hint of peace I've known in days. It's not much, just a flicker, but it's enough to carry me forward, through the trials yet to come.